Howdy folks, BelGeode here, and this is a test. We are in Microsoft Flight Simulator. We're still in World Update 9. We have not quite yet gotten to World Update 10, but that should be coming sometime in a very near future. Probably shortly after this video goes live. We're in Brazil. I forget the name of the airport. I wrote it down, but I'm in VR, so I can't see my notes. I know that the ICAO code is Sierra Bravo Echo Bravo SBEB, but for the life of me, I don't remember what it's called. Ciao something or another, because just about everything down here starts with SAO, which I guess is San, but it looks like Ciao, so I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not Brazilian. What can I say? And I don't speak Portuguese. And I've asked Sergio from helisummer.com to help me speak Portuguese, but Brazilian Portuguese and true Portuguese are apparently two different things. Who knew? But anyway, we're here in Brazil with this bird right here. This is Black Square's brand spanking new Velocity XL. It is a single engine aircraft. As you can see, it is a canard, so it definitely takes a lot of its influence from the world famous Rutan Long-EZ. As you can see, it's got a 4-bladed prop and it's got a 400 horsepower engine. Now, from my understanding, that's a little bit of creative liberty from the mod author, because this aircraft in real life, I believe, only has a 300 and maybe a 350 horsepower engine. It does not have a 400 horsepower engine. However, if you find that's too much power for you, you can always modify the CFG files that come with the aircraft to bump the horsepower down. Personally, I like it having 400 horsepower, so we're going to leave it as is. But yeah, absolutely beautiful bird. Love it. I've been waiting for this one to come to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have a similar bird in X-Plane 11 that I've really enjoyed flying, and everybody who is very much familiar with this channel knows that I do have a love affair with canard aircraft. So very glad to put this one to the test. All right, so we're going to be flying from this airport, Adelaide or whatever it's called, to Rio de Janeiro. We're going to be landing at the main airport in Rio de Janeiro. We're going to be following the coastline because, as you can see, the weather looks absolutely frightful. It's been raining all day. I'm not even kidding. I did 2 test flights earlier and it was still raining. So yeah, we'll just have to work with it. All right, but before we hop in the cockpit and get everything started, let's go through all the external camera views, because I do have a couple of things that I need to say about what they did here. So let's start with this camera view. Now, this is the first view that they give us, which is, of course, under the port wing, kind of facing at an angle towards the door. Typically, I like for the first camera to be directly behind the aircraft pointing forward, but this developer has chosen to show off the undercarriage of the plane. Not exactly my best choice, but it is a nice view, I will give it that. But then you have the second view, which is basically the first view, only higher up. What happened to the other wing? Can't we put a view on the other wing just to kind of balance it out? Or actually, better yet, this particular view should be the view that's directly behind the aircraft pointing forward. So that is probably what they should have done with this one. Now, bear in mind, all the stuff that I'm saying, this is just minor criticism, and I know I can go into the cameras.cfg file and just change everything around. And I usually do with a lot of the aircraft that I purchase, because I want the views how I want them, especially for doing videos. I have certain camera angles that I really like. For example, this camera angle, which I lovingly call the BelGeode landing cam. I'm glad they put this in there. This is quite frankly the best camera angle in the lineup. And the fact that we've got the exhausts here means that there's also going to be heat shimmer or heat blur once the engines are on, which just makes it even better. So we'll be using this one a lot as we do this flight. And then there's this view, which is literally right on top of the port side canard. Again, with the port side. What about the right side? Can we do some starboard shots here? That would be great. Seems a little limited. Plus, I feel like my beard is clipping into the wing, even though, of course, I can't feel it because, you know, I'm in VR. But yeah. And then there's this. Developers, I have no idea what you were trying to get at with this. Why do I want to see the interior of the forward wheel well? What's the point of this? This doesn't help me at all as far as making cinematic videos. I really don't know why this view was put in there. I could think of so many other different shots. Maybe a shot from the front of the aircraft pointing back, so you see the full forward profile of the aircraft. But this just seems like a waste to me. I would not have done this if I were doing your cameras.cfg. But again, minor complaints. And then there's this shot, which is awesome for one reason and not so awesome for another. We'll give you the good news first. The reason why it's awesome, of course, it's a cabin shot. And it's not that often that you see quote-unquote external views with actual cabin views. But you can see that you've got me in the pilot seat and you've got Kara in the co-pilot seat, which is great. But here's the bad part. They put it so far back that it's literally in the wall. So we could see the wheel well for the main gear here. And you can see that the strut is not really connected to anything. But you're kind of stuck behind the chair. I think this view would have been a little bit better if they would have, and bear with me, I'm going to physically move my body here since I am in VR. If they would have put my head right here over the seat facing forward, or better yet, right side. I want to sit behind Kara. Put me on the right-hand side and face me forward so that I can see. There's another downside to having this as an external rather than an internal camera. And that downside is once the engine's off, remember this engine's in the back. So that means it's going to be considerably louder than it would if the source was coming from the interior of the plane. I will demonstrate that once we're flying, and you'll see what I mean, the difference between having an internal and external shot. Of course, the other thing that I have to complain about hand in hand with this are the pilot models. Yes, we do have pilot models. Yes, that is awesome. You can't see them in VR. Once we get in the cockpit, Kara is going to disappear. I would have preferred if we have the option to show our co-pilot while in VR. And of course, passengers. You guys who are used to me on this channel know that this is something that I tend to complain about often. Not very many developers get it right. Milviz comes to mind as one of the developers that does get it right, showing your passengers and showing your co-pilot. I think this developer could push this aircraft a little bit further by doing that as well. But that's just my personal preference, so we'll leave it at that. And then we have this camera here. And I understand what they're trying to go for here. They want to show off just how crisp and sharp their textures are. You can read everything on this placard in front of the fuel receptacle there. But does it really have to be this low to the wing? Push it back a bit and push it out to the starboard wingtip or the starboard tailplane. I think that would have made for a better shot, but that, again, that's just my personal preference. More than likely, developer, I'm probably going to go through your cameras.cfg file and just revamp a lot of these views more to my taste. If you would like, I can give you the cameras.cfg file. If you like what I've done, you can include it in an update or something. If not, that's fine. Just bear in mind, anytime you update this aircraft, I'm going to change your cameras.cfg. Because a lot of these views for me in VR feel unnatural. It feels like I'm sitting in the wing. Yeah. All right, so those are all the camera views. We're going to put it back to the BelGeode landing cam because honestly, like I said, that was the best of the lot. And we will now go inside the aircraft. Okay, so now we're inside. You can see Kara disappears, which is exactly what I was talking about. We need to have the option of having the co-pilot in the cockpit while we are in the cockpit. Asobo spent a lot of time designing these human models. It would be nice to see them, especially in VR. But other than that, the textures are clean. Everything is really cool. The only thing that I would say is a bit of a question mark. You see this mouse cursor in the doorway here? It's knocking against the invisible border of the open door. So in order for me to close the door, which you'll notice goes straight up, I have to kind of slide it from side to side there until I actually find the interact spot and can click it to pull the door down. Not really liking that, but again, that's just me. All right, so this is a fully glass cockpit. Those of you who like your analog cockpits, you're not going to like this one. I'm going to tell you that from right now. This is all modern. But there is another little caveat that I do need to mention. With this aircraft, you will notice that you've got 3 GPS screens. In the center is supposed to be a GTN-750. There is no GTN-750 by default with this bird. It's not like with the Honda Jet where, you've got all of the screens included and fully coded. This developer has opted instead for you to have to download, bear in mind, for free, the PMS GTN-750. So you can go to their website, you can download the GTN-750, put it in your community folder, and voila, you've got a GTN-750 in the aircraft. Personally, I don't like that. I don't want to have to download another item, let alone an item that has the option of a premium, which means you got to pay to get every single feature that is offered in order to get the functionalities of this aircraft to their fullest potential. That strikes me as borderline laziness, and I don't know. I don't know the history of this developer, so I can't say, whether they have the knowledge to actually code out the basic functions of a GTN 750, since the real aircraft typically does have those in there. But it seems like they've taken a shortcut with relying on you, the end user, having to download another GTN 750 to put in here. And bear in mind, it's only the PMS that is supported currently. No other GTN 750s that are out there will be supported. However, on the brighter side, you can also use the working Title G3X. I personally do not use the working Title GPS system. I actually prefer the default, and the fact that it works hand in hand with the GTN 750 is fine by me. That's really all I need. All right, but I've rambled on enough. Let's go ahead and get the power on and we'll get this bird started. So I already have my nav lights going. All of your main switches are right up here. So once I hit the battery switch, the alternator switch will also come on. There we go. And you can already see the left side Garmin is coming on. Let me get my glare shield lights on as well, because it's a little dark out today. And we'll get our instrument lights on. Get our panel backlighting on, and this is for the cabin lighting, so we can turn that up as well. Cabin lighting switch is right here, so we can always change the dimmers, make it bright. Perfect. All right, now, to start, this aircraft is relatively easy to do, but before you do anything else in this bird, make sure your parking brakes are on. Your parking brakes are right down here. And by default, they are off. You want to have them in the up position. Now your parking brake's on. I have to mention that because the first couple of tests that I did, I completely forgot about the parking brake. And when I started up the aircraft, all of a sudden I was in the grass. It wasn't pretty, let me just say. Now, as far as fuel goes, you have 2 fuel selection knobs. Basically, just push them all in. That's it. When you're ready to cut the fuel, you pull them back out, but you want to make sure that they're in order for an engine start. We're already on full prop pitch. However, you'll notice our mixture knob is all the way to the bottom. Now, in order to prime this bird, what you have to do, first you've got to get your throttle into the idle position, so about a 1/4 inch open, and we'll hit the fuel pump. And as you can see, the mixture knob is going up. We want to pull it up to full for about 5 seconds. And then we want to pull it back down to its lean state. And then we can turn the fuel pump off. That's it. That's all you need to do. And just like that, the engine is primed. So pretty straightforward stuff. All right, now to start her is also ridiculously easy. So you can see we've got our engine gauges here because I have not hit the master avionics switch that'll turn the other 2 items on. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the 2 mags. We've got the left mag here, right mag here, and this is the engine start button in the middle. We need to hold that down and then simultaneously pull the mixture knob up. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I actually have a knob on my Virpil that functions as my starter switch. So what I'll do is shout clear prop, and then we'll hold that down, and we'll get the mixture open. So there we go. We got a good start, just like that. Real easy to do. Now I am going to turn on the landing lights, even though we typically save those for the runway, only because, as you can see, it's kind of inclement weather right now. We'll leave the strobes off, however. And we will also get our radio master on, which, as you will notice, will initialize the GTN-750 mod, as well as the second screen of the G3X. So there we go. Everything looks good. All right. Now, this little item here, the little temperature gauge, that's all it does. Apparently, it's only there for looks. You can't interact with it. You can't change your inside temperature. And from my understanding, I don't believe there's any oxygen with this bird. So we're going to want to stay below 10,000 feet. Hopefully, the clouds will cooperate with us. One thing I will do, though, is I'll go ahead and turn on the AC, which, bear in mind, doesn't do anything, but it's kind of cool. And there are circuit breakers in here. If you pull that open, you will see every single circuit breaker, and they do work. I did check them earlier. These are our trim controls right here. Pitch trim, rudder trim. That's really all you need with this bird. And other than that, we're pretty much set to go. So, Miss Kara, I am going to need you to contact the tower and make them aware that we're getting the heck out of here. Tell them we would like a west departure, please.
Ground velocity, November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo request taxi for takeoff departure to the
I'm going to
west.
set my CDI.
Velocity November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo taxi 2 and hold short of runway 25 via taxiway.
Okay,
Contact tower on 122.8 when ready.
sounds good.
Taxiing, hold short runway 25 via taxiway velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
All right, I am going to pull our mixture back a little bit. Since we're idling at a low RPM, we definitely don't want to foul our spark plugs, so we'll lean the mixture just a touch. All right, and as you can see, the GTN-750 is pretty straightforward. If you know how to use a GTN-750, you will not be lost at all with this one. So the only thing that I haven't really done here is I haven't punched in what our cruise altitude and everything will be. I'm thinking we're going to go to about 8,000 feet. So I'm going to set our altitude select from now. 84, so I overshot it. There we go, 8,000. All right, so we are pretty much good to go, except for one minor detail. With this aircraft, it doesn't really have pressurization and oxygen per se, but you do want to make sure that you seal the doors. So to do that, you hit the power switch here, and then you hit this switch to inflate. Little yellow light comes on, engaging the seals in the door, and this is kind of, sort of, basically a pressurized cabin now. I say it like that because, like I said, there's no real pressurization systems that I'm aware of in this particular model. I don't know if any of the ones out there do have that, since, after all, this is a home-built or a kit-built aircraft, so it is possible. I just don't know. All right, let me do a quick controls wipeout here. So ailerons, which are on the main wing in the back. Elevators, which are on the front because this is a canard. And rudder. You can barely see the rudder pedals under there. Okay, but we're pretty much set to go, so we're going to need to taxi out that way, and then we will be taking off in the opposite direction. So let's get our parking brakes off. And you will notice we already start moving. This is a relatively light aircraft, so it doesn't take much to get her going. In fact, I'm actually still at full idle with the mixture pulled back a little bit here, and you can see we're already moving. So with that in mind, you're going to need to keep your finger on the brake control.
Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo. Hold position, caution, other traffic.
What other traffic? There's no other traffic. There's a
Hold
Kodiak
position,
sitting right there.
Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
Oh, I am so not holding
Velocity
position.
Alpha Golf Bravo. Continue taxi.
Dang right.
Roger, Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
I suppose eventually we will get back to the Kodiak at some point in time. I know that SimWorks Studios has been begging me to do beta testing for some of their updates, but to be honest with you, I really have not had the time. There's just so many new aircraft coming out for this sim. It's extremely difficult for me to find the time to do any beta testing for any of the developers that I know and love. So my apologies to SimWorks Studios if I've been slacking off there, but you gotta understand, the channel comes first, really. And there's Milviz Corsair. I'd love to be flying that right now, but that is not the star of this show. Alright, we're gonna make a left here. So as far as flying this bird, you're going to find that it's really easy to fly. It is your typical canard. If you've flown the Rutan Long-EZ, more than likely you know how to fly this bird. It's just got a little bit more power than the Long-EZ. With that said, it is a canard, which means it does like to fly. It's different from your conventional forward wing and tailplane in the back. Because of the fact that everything's opposite, this tailplane, well, canard, will actually pick up the wind first, which also means this thing does not like to stall at all. If the canard stalls first, basically all it'll do is just porpoise, so the nose will bob up and down as it tries to build up its airspeed. But the wing being so far back means that it's out of the airflow.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo at runway 25 ready for departure to the west.
Let me go ahead and get everything turned on here.
Velocity November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo altimeter 30.0013 tree at 5. Departure to the west approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 25.
Cleared for takeoff runway 25 Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
Okay, I see nothing going out. I see nothing coming in. We do have a pretty hefty back taxi. So yeah, as I was saying, because of the fact that this thing is a canard, it literally just loves to fly. And bear in mind, you're going to take off in this thing roughly around 70, 75 knots. So not that much. Not much faster than your typical Cessna. With that said, though, canards definitely do have a bit of a nose up tendency. So after you take off, you're going to want to trim her nose down, just so that you can keep your airspeed and get a pretty decent angle of attack going. But the fact that she is a canard, like I said, it means that she will love to fly. And she is ridiculously easy to fly. You're going to find that this aircraft absolutely loves to stay airborne. And even when it's time to come in to land, she can get a little bit floaty because of that. So you really got to chop the power on this one. Alright, now if I recall correctly, there should be a disused taxiway up ahead leading over to those hangar buildings. We're going to use that as our turnaround instead of going all the way to the red lights down there. I do need to hit the brakes a little bit though, because like I mentioned, this thing will run away with you even at full idle. Alright, here's our turn off. But yeah, I have nothing to complain about as far as the flight model of this bird. They absolutely nailed it. I've never flown one of these in real life, but I do know a few people who have, and they all have really good things to say about the flight modeling of the canards, which is a welcome relief for me considering how much headache I had to go through just to convince Asobo and Microsoft that they needed to account for canards in the flight models so that developers could make aircraft like this and a Rutan Long-EZ. I'm sure Dino probably remembers, he probably still curses my name because I delayed the launch of his Rutan Long-EZ because I wanted it done right. And the only way it was going to get done right is if Microsoft actually paid attention to how a canard was supposed to be done. And thankfully, they did. They did. All right. So let's make sure everything looks good. We are on alt. Excellent, excellent. Our target altitude is 8,000. Our barometer is set. Lights are all on. Fuel pump is on. Mixture knob is full. Prop pitch is full. Okay, everything looks good. So let's take the active and get going. Beautiful, beautiful. I really do love this bird. And even though, yeah, I am complaining a bit about some of the things that Black Square has elected to do with the design and implementation of this bird, it really is a nice bird. It is exactly as I hoped it would be in Microsoft Flight Simulator. All right, but you know what it's time for, folks. Brakes down, throttles up. We're going to redline this puppy. Throttle at 85%. Brakes off. And we're going to hold it there. I'm not going to give it full throttle because we've already got a whole bunch of RPM at our disposal. There's 75. And look at that. What did I say? She just wants to fly. All right, let's go ahead and get the gear up. We'll go to the outside view for that.
Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo, continue for west departure.
Aldea Tower velocity, November 70, Alpha Golf Bravo, continue for west departure.
And just like that, we are airborne. Now, I'm going to show you what I mean about you needing to trim this thing down. I'm going to let go of the stick, and you see all of a sudden she wants to become a rocket ship. So we actually need to trim her down a bit. And since I'm already on course, I'm actually going to set up the autopilot. So we'll go master autopilot on. Let's get our yaw damper on as well. And we'll get our GPS or our LNAV going. And since we're gaining a good deal of RPM, I'm actually going to pull the prop pitch back.
Alpha Golf Bravo, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
There we go. We'll let
Aldea
Kara do
Tower
her
velocity,
thing.
November 70, Alpha Golf Bravo frequency change.
I'll get the landing
Approach
lights off.
velocity November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo is type velocity 3 miles southwest of Aldea, 2,500 feet. Request clearance to transition Charlie airspace.
Velocity November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo approach. Squawk 0527.
Squawk 0527 velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo radar contact 4 miles west of Sierra Delta Papa Charlie, 3,300 feet. Cleared through the Charlie airspace.
Cleared through the Charlie airspace velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
Okay, thank you, Kara, for taking care of everything for us. So we are headed to this first waypoint here, and then we're going to Dead. That's an unfortunate name. At least it's not undead, so we're okay with that. We've got 17 miles to go to get to there, but that's after we finish up the 8 miles we need to get to our first waypoint. That should allow us to get above the clouds. And I'm trying to remain optimistic here because in all of my previous tests, there were a lot of clouds. So 8,000 should be just above the cloud deck, I'm hoping. But since I'm running real weather, anything can happen, and it could have changed. But other than that, as you can see, that's all there really is to this bird. Everything being modern and, you know, with us on autopilot, it's ridiculously easy. I mean, I know I say that a lot, especially in the last two videos, but that really is the case. Anybody, I think, could fly this with, of course, a little bit of instruction and whatnot. One thing I am going to do, though, is I am going to zoom out our map on the MFD here. So there we go. At least we can see the coastline of Brazil there. And let me zoom it out even further so that we can see our entire flight plan. All right, there we go. So that is Rio de Janeiro. That is our destination. So we're basically going to just skirt the coastline here. Once we get to this VOR MIA, we're going to bring her down from 8,000 feet, or actually we're probably going to do it once we reach Dead. We'll bring her down to roughly about 2,000 feet, and then we'll get into the pattern and we will come in. Bear in mind, the winds can change. So even though I've got a setup to come in on the runway going off in this direction, it may have us come in on a different runway. So we will need to keep that in mind. In the interim, I'm going to zoom us in a bit here. And because this is a light aircraft, yes, we do get affected by turbulence. That is a thing. We are getting kind of close to the 8,000 mark, so I'm getting ready to hit my altitude hold. It looks like it's already snagged it, so it is slowly but surely coming down. So I really don't need to do everything here. It's taking care of it all by itself, which is even better. You can see the temperature, 44 degrees, so we are over freezing. Now, why is that a concern for me? Because I don't believe this thing has any kind of anti-icing capabilities on it. That could be a problem. That could be a very real problem. But we seem to be fine now. You can see I was not kidding when I said we are barely over the tops of the clouds. Yeah, about that. All right, but we are cruising right now and everything does look good. So the other thing that I want to do is I want to pull our mixture knob back. So we're going to be watching the EGT gauge. It's going to climb up into the yellow range and we want to bring it back down into the green. So we're leaning the mixture just past peak. There we go, it's in the yellow now. TIT should be joining it shortly. Make sure I know where we're going. Alright, that looks good. And we'll keep bringing her down. Here we go, it's coming down now. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. Alright, so you can see how far down we took the mixture. And of course we also have our RPM, so we can bring down just a touch. So we'll do that just to make sure we are firmly in the green. And now we're on cruise speed. What is our speed? Roughly around 175 knots. Ground speed is roughly about the same. So we're doing pretty good. And now would be a great time for us to go to that outside view so that we can check out this beautiful scenery, or lack thereof, since it's obscured by clouds. While I'm out here, now would be a great time to tell you about the difference between the internal and the external cameras. You hear how loud this engine is. This is because it is registering in the cameras.cfg file as an external camera view. This is what I'm talking about. It needed to be an internal camera view for it to retain the sound dampening that we have inside the cockpit.
Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo. Brasilia Center velocity, November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo 8,000 feet.
Velocity November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo Brasilia Center altimeter tree 0.00, continue to own it as planned. Bravo, you are 18 miles southwest. Climb and maintain 8,000 feet. Expect vectors, visual runway 20 right approach. Climb and maintain 8,000 feet. Expect vectors, visual runway 20 right approach. Cessna Whiskey Uniform Bravo.
Okay, so you may have noticed that the livery that I'm rocking is an all-white one. That is the only custom livery that they give you in this thing. The developers opted to do liveries based on real-life birds. And of course, you've got the one blank template, which is basically what this is. Now, the only thing that they did not include is, you'll notice that I have my registration, November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo. They did not include that as part of the livery. I kind of wish they did. I kind of wish that we at least had the option of showing the registration that we've chosen on the aircraft and livery that we've decided to use. And I wish more developers would do that. It doesn't matter if there is a real aircraft that happens to have that particular registration number on the side of the bird. You don't have to include it. There's a reason why Microsoft gave us the ability to make our own registration numbers, and it kind of defeats the purpose when we've got liveries that have the registration numbers baked in, or worse yet, liveries that don't have any registration number at all. Something to think about, developers. Something to think about. Alright, so we are closing in on MIAVOR. We've got about 18 miles to go till we get there. So I'm actually going to start bringing us down. I can't see the bay yet. Oh, no, wait, I can, right on the horizon there. So yeah, we still have plenty of time before we get into Rio's airspace. But I'm going to go ahead and at least change the altimeter, or the altitude select, to about 2,000 feet. And I'm thinking probably about halfway between this waypoint and MIA, we'll start bringing her down, which will actually give me a little bit of a time to go on a rant. Yep, it's coming, and this one is directed straight at Asobo and Microsoft. Look at these clouds. I'm just going to shut up for a second, and I want you to look at the clouds, in particular look at the edges of the clouds. You see that, right? It's coming through on the video, right? Everything's pixelated, and it's been that way since about Sim Update 5. Granted, if you are in 2D mode, it's not nearly as bad, but it is exacerbated being in VR. And we see these things crystal clear, pun intended, because we really don't want to see pixelated clouds. Asobo, Microsoft, for the love of all things aviation and holy, do something about this. If I were to hop into DCS World, the clouds, which granted their clouds are static, they have their own issues to deal with there, they don't look anything like this. Their clouds actually look more realistic and less pixelated and grainy as this is. As a matter of fact, even X-Plane 12, which granted it's not even in open beta just yet, everything that I've seen about their clouds so far looks superior to what we're seeing here as far as the pixelation and the quality of the clouds. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the texture, I love the richness of the colors. I mean, if you look at that, that looks like a rain cloud. It's just let down greatly by the fact that once you get a little bit closer to it, all that beautiful fluffiness and angst turns into a bunch of voxels. Like, really? This is not Minecraft, Asobo. Come on. Put your thinking caps on, please, and see if you can sort this out for us. Not just the VR users, but for everyone, because this detracts from the beauty that these clouds are supposed to have. Alright, I'm off my soapbox. That's it for my rant for right now. Thank you for allowing me to rant. I'm going to sit in the back a little bit here. So just to kind of show off the difference. Now, we were in that outside camera view before. What I would like for the developers to do, aside from, you know, making it so that I can see my co-pilot, is consider the fact that whenever you're doing internal views like this, we already have the capability to move ourselves around internally. And there's no reason why we should have an external view that's trying to mimic an internal view, because obviously the sound is way off. You can hear me, right? Where you probably had some difficulty hearing me when I was in that external view. It's a simple fix, as far as I'm concerned. So, if you could. Alright, I think we're just about done here. And actually, I kind of like this seat. It more matches my controls because my stick is actually on the right-hand side in real life. And my throttle is on the left. So this seat would actually suit me perfectly. But since we need to begin our top of descent, I am going to pull our power back. And we will activate our vertical speed. I don't believe the VNAV functions. But we're going to put the throttle to idle, and we're going to descend at a rate of about 1,200 feet per minute. While we're at it, we'll get our mixture up. We'll leave the prop pitch where it is for right now, because that should be good considering the fact that our throttle is idled anyway. You can see the bay that we're aiming for right there. So off to the right of the PFD is where our airport is going to be. And we should even, if we're lucky and there's no clouds there, we should even get a decent look at the Christ the Redeemer statue on the way in. For those of you who like that sort of thing, that is. I, on the other hand, I'm going to go ahead and get our landing lights on because I'm notorious for forgetting those. So might as well just keep that on. Fuel pump is still on. We could have turned it off for cruise, but there's kind of no point really. I mean, it can stay on because it needs to come on now anyway. I will remind you, since this is a canard, she does pick up speed relatively quickly, and she does not have flaps. In fact, I don't even think she's got speed brakes. Let's go to the outside view really quick, and we'll see if we can verify if she has speed brakes or not. I want to say no. Well, unless the speed brakes are hidden somewhere that I can't see, I think it's a fair bet that there are no speed brakes on this bird, which makes my point even more important. When you're coming in with this thing, you definitely want to slow her down. You can see the white line starts at 120, so that's pretty much where you want to be when you're dropping the gear on this thing. Because you have no flaps, that means when you are coming in with this bird, you definitely want to monitor your speed. So think about your descent ahead of time, plan accordingly. I mean, you've got a GTN-750 here. You can pretty much do anything with it. So you just gotta put the head work into it and use logic and common sense to bring her in. Now, I know this is supposed to be technically IFR weather, and we're really flying this as if it were a VFR flight. I just can't be bothered right now dealing with all the various IFR procedures, which, by the way, I'm not really all that good at. So, we're going to fake it till we make it here. As long as I've got that synthetic vision in front, which to me is superior in the default screen as opposed to the working title one. That's just my personal preference, folks. You're entitled to like which one you like. But for me, this is easier to read, this is easier to see, and it just looks better. So, it is what it is. Alright, but as far as us coming in, we're heading for Boomflowah, which is the waypoint that I have dubbed as our transition waypoint. You can see we have 2 additional waypoints until we get to the airport itself, SBGL. So that will give us enough time, or give Kara enough time, to figure out which runway it is that we're going to come in on. So we should be at about 2,000 feet momentarily, and that'll be at Boomflowah. And we'll also start slowing down our speed, because as you can see, we're at a stable 140 knots right now. We haven't really lost a whole hell of a lot of speed. But again, such an easy bird to fly. I mean, if you understand the basic common sense of aviation and how to fly aircraft, this thing will reward you. It is such a joy to fly. Granted, I would not recommend that you do a lot of aerobatics, or as I like to call them, shenanigans with this bird. But suffice to say, she is so docile that she would probably pull it off and only complain a little bit. Alright, 2200. And we're getting close to our waypoint. You can barely see the beach there. I'm not sure if that's the famous beaches of Ipanema. I really don't know much about Brazil, except that it is absolutely beautiful, and apparently so are the people. That's about all I know about Brazil. Oh, and it's very, very crowded. You can see that below. Kind of reminds me of that one Snoop song. You know the one I'm talking about. I'm not going to play it, obviously, because I don't want any copyright strikes, and I would rather Snoop does not hate me. But you probably know which song I'm talking about. That's what I think of when I think of Brazil. Alright, so we are just about 100, and I'm going to give us a little bit of throttle so that we stay around that speed. We're just bringing her in nice and easy here. We're going to need to make a right-hand turn. So, let's see. We're still just barely underneath the cloud deck. Kara, do me a favor. Get us clearance to land, please. Oh, looks like I got to use a mouse. And this is the airport we want.
Rio Tower velocity, November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo, is 14 miles southeast, 2,000 feet, with uniform to land.
Velocity November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo Rio Tower. Altimeter 30.00123.9 at 8. Enter left base runway 28.
Enter left base runway 28 velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
Runway 28, got it. Okay, so we'll let the plane do its thing to line us up to the wrong runway, and then once we reach the last waypoint just before we're supposed to touch down, I will disengage the autopilot
Velocity Alpha Golf
and
Bravo
take
with
control.
238 at 8. Cleared to land runway 28.
Cleared to land runway 28 velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
You can see we're still picking up speed even with the throttle near idle. It's crazy. This thing just wants to fly. It's absolutely nuts. All right, I am going to zoom in our map just by a couple of notches here. So that way we can at least see the airport. Actually, I may have zoomed it in too much. So right about there should be good. And even though we are back in the clouds, we are at least safely over the hills, which thankfully are less than 2,000 feet. There's another beachfront area there. And we are closing in on the bay. I'm just trying to see if I can get a visual on the airport. We're going to do this landing similar to how you would if you were doing, say, the expressway visual coming into LaGuardia, where you come in like you're coming in on one particular runway, which I believe is runway 4, if I'm not too mistaken. And then you brake right just before you get into the final approach and follow expressway around to runway 31. So we're gonna kind of do something similar to that. I know I'm probably explaining it poorly, but if you're familiar with the expressway visual, use that as kind of a reference here. So we've got one more waypoint to go until we are going to brake right and work our way in. We're still at 2,000, which I'm starting to think is a little higher than I would like to be because I can't see crap. Let me go to the outside view and see if we can see anything from the BelGeode landing cam. Well, the good news is we can see some things. The bad news is we can't see everything. All right, but I do know that we are over the bay right now, so I'm going to take this time to turn off our autopilot and start descending. We're going to keep the gear up until I actually have visual of the runway here. So we are manually controlling this bird right now. And remember, we're still coming into the wrong runway. We're going to need to hang a right and come in on runway 28, I believe they said. Let me set my heading bug here. There we go, 280. Okay. Why do I feel like we're crooked? Does it look like we're crooked to you? It does feel like we are crooked. Oh, you know what that is? That's a causeway. That's why it looks like we're crooked. That's a road. That's an actual bridge and causeway that is going across the bay here. That was throwing me off there. I thought that was the horizon. I'm like, why are we so crooked? But there you can see downtown Rio de Janeiro in all its, I guess, gloomy splendor right now, considering our weather. All right, let's see how we're doing. We're coming in directly to the airport. This is fine. And we are less than 1 mile to the waypoint. So as soon as it switches over to our final destination, I will get the gear down. So I'm keeping the throttle down low deliberately. And you can see she still wants to fly. It's crazy. She still wants to fly. All right, let's go to the outside view and we'll get our gear down. Okay, so you're probably wondering what the plan is. Well, you see that little peninsula sticking out about 2 o'clock? I know that the top end of that peninsula lines up.
Uniform Zulu Romeo at runway 28 ready for departure west departure.
We'll wait till they're finished.
Romeo, Uniform Zulu Romeo, hold short runway 28. Traffic is velocity on base.
Oh, it recognizes us. Interesting. Well, that's kind of cool. I'm going to trim us nose up just a slight bit here. We don't want to go too much, obviously, because
Hold short
that's going to
runway
create
28
another problem.
Cessna Uniform Zulu Romeo.
All right, so yeah, the whole reason why I'm doing this is just to get a little bit of distance before I turn base to final. Obviously, we're going to be holding up traffic here a little
Rio
bit.
Tower Cessna Papa Romeo, Whiskey Uniform Bravo, 12 miles north inbound visual runway 20 right approach.
20, that's the
Cessna
runway that
Bravo
we were just
Romeo,
heading
Whiskey
for.
Uniform Bravo Rio Tower. Altimeter tree 0.00, wind 231 at 10. Cleared visual runway 20 right approach.
That's just beautiful. I don't care who you are, that just looks beautiful. Well done, Asobo. I know I gave you hell over the clouds.
Right approach Cessna Whiskey Uniform Bravo.
That's just awesome. Everything about this area is well modeled. Alright, so let's go ahead and begin our turn because we're over the peninsula right now. You can see we're just about at 700 feet, so that is actually a little bit higher than I would like. I might bring us down to about 500, but I'm pretty sure that I'll be below the glide slope here. And according to this, we are on base right now, so we're just going to hold it right here until we cross over and get feet dry, as the Navy says. And then we'll make our turn to final, and the runway should be right over there somewhere. I hope. That's all I'll say, I hope. Alright, let's see. We're about 80 on our speed, which is fine. We really need to be about 70 to come into land, but obviously I don't want to lose too much airspeed as well. We can take another look at this built-up area. This is just amazing. How many people live here? Wow, that's impressive. That is really impressive. I'm not one for cities, but considering the fact that it is Brazil, and Brazil is just such a beautiful area, this is really well done. It is starting to eat my FPS though, so let's turn to final and see if we can get this bird down. Alright, landing check. Mixture knob full, prop pitch full. Gear is down, and we need to make a sharp left turn. Thankfully this thing does have twin tailplanes, so it's kind of like a Tomcat. You're going to need to use some rudder to bring her in. And I'm going to trim the nose up just a touch here while we lose power and start bringing her in. We are below glide slope, so I'm going to give her a little bit more power here. There we go, looking good. Quick check outside. Okay, I think we're good to go. Let's start chopping that power and bring ourselves down. Like I said, she's a canard. She will fly all night. And we're probably going to float, so thankfully this is a very long runway. And look at that. There's the traffic that's holding short, waiting for us as we lollygag our way in. Very nice, very nice. It's not that often that I keep the traffic active, but at least this was good enough so that I could see that I'm the one that's actually holding up traffic. Alright, getting ready to idle throttle. And let's bring her in. Throttle to idle. A little bit of flare. And hold it, hold it, hold it. There we go. We are down. Very nice. Very nice. Alright, let's go ahead and give her some brakes. We don't have to worry about flaps, so all we need to do is just
Velocity
make sure
Alpha
we can
Golf
brake.
Bravo exit runway when able.
Working on it, buddy. So welcome, folks, to Rio de Janeiro. We're not going to park over by where the passenger planes park.
Velocity Alpha Golf Bravo contact ground on 121.65.
All right, Kara.
Going to 121.65 velocity Alpha Golf Bravo.
Thank you. I'm thinking we're going to park over here. You see that little hangar there? Let's see if we can figure out a way to park there. And that will be our final resting place for the evening. So yeah, welcome to Rio de Janeiro. I sincerely hope you all enjoyed that flight. Granted, it was a quick flight, but it gives us the opportunity to really check out this bird. And honestly, in spite of the things that I have complained about in this video with this aircraft, this really is a great aircraft, and I'm really glad that Black Square took the time to code it and bring it into Microsoft Flight Simulator. It is one of those aircraft that I just instantly fall in love with. So when you see me start to nitpick stuff, it's pretty much because I want this thing to be the best it can be. And I don't need to go over those points again. I've already done that enough in this video. So if the developers are watching, you at least have, stuff to chew on, basically. And you can decide if you want to incorporate any of the changes that I may make to, like, the cameras.cfg file and whatnot. But suffice to say, I really do enjoy flying this one. Just like with the Honda Jet in the last episode, it is such a joy to fly. And it is, for me at least, bringing back the passion why I enjoy using Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I dare say between the last two aircraft plus the Milviz 310 and of course the Cessna Skymaster by Carenado, they are hands down my favorite GA planes right now. We won't count the Warbirds, or we won't count the Tomcat or any of that kind of stuff, but just strictly GA, this is the kind of stuff that really floats my boat. So I hope that I've been able to do it justice with this video here. And I hope you at least had an inkling as to how to operate this bird. As with all things, I don't do anything by the book. It's basically seat of my pants flying here, and of course, reading the manual a couple of times. But hopefully, I am at least able to put something together for you to where you can get a good idea of what this aircraft will do for you. If I've accomplished that, then that was my goal, and I am pleased with that. All right, let's see if we can find a good parking spot here. I think I am going to hang a left, and we'll just pull up like right here. Perfect. I love a good abandoned area. All right, parking brakes on. And it looks like my GTN has turned itself off. Why? I have no idea. I did not command it to turn itself off, I don't think. But since it's decided to do that, let's go ahead and get that off. Cabin lights off. Nav lights off. Okay. All right, so that will just about do it. So just to remind you, the aircraft that I've been showing off today has been the Black Square Velocity XL. It is a gorgeous bird. It is an experimental bird. It's a kit built or home built, originally influenced by the Rutan Long-EZ. However, it made its debut in the 80s, and the gentleman who perfected the design, shall I say, has been in business since that time, creating these kits for customers around the world. Excellent plane. Highly recommend this one. This is an awesome little bird. But don't forget that if you do decide to get this bird, you will also need to get the GTN-750 that belongs here. You only need the free one, the PMS GTN-750. You don't have to get the premium paid one, but you will need that. Otherwise, your screen will just simply look like this all the time. You don't have to get the working Title G3X, but the developer does recommend it. So might be something you might want to think about as well, since they both go hand in hand. But with all of that having been said, I would like to thank you for watching. This has been BelGeode. I have been flying in Microsoft Flight Simulator World Update 9. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, by the time this video goes up, we should be just about ready for World Update 10 coming soon. And if you enjoy what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. And there it goes, doing that thing again. Asobo, why can't you fix that? Please. I don't ask much. Just fix the stuff that you know needs fixed. That's all I ask. All right, but that will do it for me. Enough of my griping. BelGeode, signing out. And I will catch you all really soon. Ciao.